Hi there, this is Steven Gonzalez with Steven Gonzalez Voiceovers. How are you doing today? We should always keep in mind that Reaper is meant primarily as a music production software package. However, that's not to say that it can't be VO friendly, especially when it comes to certain parameters. And so, global project settings, that's what's next on Reaper for Voice Talent. In this video, we're going to be spending our entire time within the Global Project Settings window. And with that, without further ado, let's get started. Here we have Reaper. Now, to get to the Global Project Settings window, we go to File, and we go to Project Settings. We're going to be dealing with 3 of the 5 areas that you see here: Project Settings, Media, Video, Advanced, and Notes. Starting with Project Settings. Now, what exactly is sample rate? Our acoustic signal coming from our mouth gets picked up by the microphone, and it is turned into analog signal. And then this analog signal goes to the interface, where at a certain number of times per second, it is sampled and converted into something that the computer can understand. That's what the sample rate is. Now, there are 3 accepted sample rates, 2 more than others, but we'll go over all 3. The first one is what you see on the screen. 44.1 is what we call this, 44,100 times per second that the analog signal is being sampled. The other mostly accepted sample rate is 48K, but there's also 96K. Many people have the opinion that where you are handing in a project, let's say at 48K, well, it's okay to record either at 48K or 96K. If it's at 44.1, then you can either record at 44.1, 48K, or 96K. Some people say just 96K and then downsample whenever you get to the client's final version. Whatever you wish to do. For the purposes of this sequence, we're going to say that we're recording and handing in a project at 48K. So we're going to select 48,000. Now, the next 2 parameters, we spoke of those in the previous video when we were talking about the transport bar, and we said that they had the project tempo and the project time signature. Well, here they are. The BPM, beats per minute, is set right now to 120. That means that a beat is happening every half second. The time signature, on the other hand, says that there are 4 beats per measure. What we need to try to do is line up a measure to being equal to 1 beat, which is in turn equal to 1 second. And this is how you do this. And the reason why we're doing this is for punch and roll. And in a future video, I'll explain more when we get there. But just for now, project BPM, let's set that to 60 so that a beat happens every 60 beats per minute. So it's a beat every second. So therefore, a beat is equal to a second. Time signature. This top number says how many beats are in a measure. Right now, it's 4. So as it stands right now, a measure would be 4 seconds. Let's change this 4 to a 1. Now, a measure is equal to 1 beat, and that 1 beat is equal to 1 second. Therefore, a measure is equal to 1 second. Very important for punch and roll. Now, let's go on to Timebases. Both of these should be time. Unless you're interested in producing music, really, we don't need anything for beats. Okay, that takes care of project settings area. Let's go to the media area, which is one of the more important areas within Reaper. Path to save media files. There are 3 places where you can place your media files. A media file is basically your WAV file and its associated repeaks file. A repeaks file allows Reaper to display the WAV file inside the DAW in that ubiquitous seismographic looking thing that almost every DAW does, right? That's what the repeaks file does. So the WAV file and repeaks files are media files. Where do you want to store them? Well, there's one of 3 places we can do this. We can either leave it blank, and then they'll go under the project directory. That's OK file organization. Or we could do something like this. We could do mount, and then we can do something like raw audio. This is really, really, really bad file organization. Think of this. As many projects as you're going to be doing as a voice talent, every single thing that you record, along with their repeaks files, is going to go into that directory. We're talking eventually, and very soon, by the way, thousands of files. Talk about a big mess. Instead, we could do something like this. We could kind of look at, but it looks like this, right? This says, okay, there's going to be a project folder. Inside the project folder, there's going to be a control file, a .rpp file, and then inside that project folder, we're going to have two separate folders, subfolders. One's going to be called raw audio, where the media files, the WAV file and the repeats file, are going to go. And then there's going to be another one called renders, which we're going to get to in a future video in this sequence. For now, let's just keep it at raw audio. Secondary recording path. This is very, very cool. Let's say that you're in the booth and you're recording and you have this setup. You have actually an external hard drive mounted under Mount and Backups. And then it has a folder called REAPER Waves. What's happening in this setup is that when you're recording, there's a WAV file being generated under the project directory inside the subfolder called raw audio, which is here. In addition, there's a copy being saved off on your external hard drive under REAPER Waves, under backups. This is an automatic backup. Think of that for a second. If anything happens to your main drive, you still have a backup. Now, I did say centralized directories are a bad idea. You can do something else if you want, but if you just want them in a centralized backup area, this would be enough. Now, since we don't have an external hard drive mounted, let's just keep it blank. Recording. Audio format for new recordings should really be either WAV or AIFF. WAV bit depth. 24-bit pulse code modulation. What does bit depth mean? It basically means the amount of information per sample that is being captured in the analog flow to be converted into digital information. 24-bit PCM seems to be where everybody's going to, although there's still many, many people who want 16-bit PCM. And you can do that if you want. For those of us who do IVR, the temptation is to come over here and say 8-bit mu law. To be honest, don't do that, because we're talking about the raw recording. We're not talking about the final product. We have a time and a chance in the future to be able to convert this 24-bit PCM into 8-bit mu law. And when we get to rendering, I'll show you how to do that. Please include your markers and regions. This way, if there's anything that goes wrong with the RPP file, then you still have your markers and regions stored with the WAV file. And finally, default format for rendering projects and regions. It's not set right now, but once you set it, you cannot unset it. You cannot go back to not set, although you can change it. Let's talk about changing this to WAV first of all. 24-bit PCM or 16-bit PCM, whichever one you do more. That's what you want for your default. You can change this when you're talking about rendering, but for defaults, this is what you're talking about. Do not include markers and regions for your client. Remember, this is your client's WAV file now. So unless they're an engineer or whatever and they need markers and regions, I wouldn't put them in there. And whenever I hit OK, you'll see it says 24-bit WAV. What if we do MP3s more than WAV? Well, then we come over here and we do MP3. Set it to constant bit rate. Don't use VBR. I know that there are some people who like VBR MP3s. Don't do that. It just doesn't make the MP3 as good of a file as it could be, for a number of reasons which are outside the scope of this video. Now, bit rate. There's a lot of audio theory behind bit rate, but essentially, practically, it's the intersection between file size and sound quality. Sort of like 24-bit PCM versus 16-bit PCM. Yeah, there's going to be a difference in the file size, and there might be a little bit of a difference in the sound quality as far as better for 24-bit. As far as MP3s are concerned, 128 seems to be the default for most projects. Most of my clients want 128. However, if they don't ask for it, if they don't ask for a specific bit rate, I normally give them 192 because through experimentation and through analysis and all this good stuff, it seems to be the better intersection between file size and sound quality. Now, if they don't care at all, give them the best that you can give them, which is 320 kbps. You know, it's a larger file, but then again, hard drive space is not at a premium anymore, so there you go. Normally, I would set it to 192, and that's what we'll do here. When I hit OK, you'll see it says 192 kbps MP3. Let's keep it there for now. The final one, notes, the author. Let's put our name here. What we're doing is we're setting up wildcards. And when we get to rendering, I'll show you how to use a wildcard called author so that it automatically puts your name within the final product's file name, whether it's a WAV file or an MP3 file or an AIFF file or whatever. Your name will be on there, and then we can take it out if we need to. We can hit OK here, and everything that we have done in the past 13, 14 minutes will be applied to this project. Or we can hit Save as Default Project Settings, and everything that we have done during the past 13, 14 minutes will be applied to this project and future projects, which is exactly what we want. So we hit Save as Default Project Settings, and that's it. In the next video, we'll finally start looking at recording in Reaper. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember to put those comments or questions in the comment section below. The link to the Maccentric playlist is in that description below. And so this is Steven Gonzalez with Steven Gonzalez Voiceovers, wishing y'all all the best, and you have a wonderful and wonder-filled day.